All right, guys, we back with one of my good friends, former teammates, Super Bowl teammate, Pierre Thomas, man. Pierre, I appreciate you being here with me. I appreciate you stopping by the chat to hang out with us for a little bit. I want to ask you a few questions today, man. And the first thing I want to start off with, man, is what you've been up to during this kind of this quarantine and all the craziness that's been going on in our world now with the coronavirus.
I mean, first off, I just want to wish and hope that and pray everyone is well and, safe and inside their homes. And I mean, it's just crazy times that we're going through right now, man. Nobody expect this would ever happen. I mean, I know I didn't through my years, but here we are and we have to adjust, the way we can accordingly. And I mean, I just keep myself busy, man, relaxing a little bit here and there, but I'm also working on other projects. I'm building things right now on my roof. I know you've probably seen a couple of things. I mean, people have been asking me, you a builder? I'm like, well, I guess I am because I ain't never built nothing before. So I say, well, why not? Why not try to see what I can do, what other skills I got in life? I feel like this is an opportunity, even though this is a crazy situation that we're going through, but this is another opportunity for all of us to see what other set of skills that we have, ways for us to improve ourselves as human beings. Pick up another language, see if you can build something, fix something around the house, try to work on it, do the best job you can. There's so many outlets, different outlets that we can, use to take and, use to our advantage at this moment.
See, I knew that, obviously we have a personal relationship, but I knew that, you were going to utilize this time period to challenge yourself and to push yourself to do different things, because I know the kind of person you are. I know how much you love to push yourself. And so you said that you putting your roof together on top of your house?
Yeah. So right now, man, I'm putting everything on my roof right now. I've just built a bar at this very moment. I mean, early this morning, I was up working on my fire pit that I'm building. I'm building a 10-foot fire pit on my roof, man. I built a 20-foot couch. I built two L-shaped, 8 feet long couches. I got a fire pit next to that. I got to build, what I need to finish up is my rooftop table, which is going to be 7 foot long. I'm doing epoxy. And a few people followed me on my Instagram. I did my dining room table out of epoxy. So I'm building just about anything. I even built my bed, man.
So you are a builder then.
I found that out. And what it took, it was just 2 years of just being dedicated to it, not going out, doing what I need to do, just being solid. I mean, that's 2 years out of my life. And I'm planning to live to about, 90, hopefully. But I mean, just 2 years out of my life just to do that. I mean, I'm happy because I got a chance to see something different within myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about dedication and time. And if you're willing to put that in, you can make anything happen. And that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it, man. It's therapeutic. I get a chance to really see what reward feels like, in another aspect, besides sports. So I mean, I love it. I love it. I really do like it. And also just writing too. I'm writing my very first book, and I'm writing it myself. I'm not a writer, but I'm gonna find a ghostwriter to clean it up. But I mean, writing also is very therapeutic, man. I'm just finding other ways to see, who I am as a human being in this world.
Yeah.
And staying sane. Because
at
this point, we all need to at this point.
That's dope, man. I mean, me and my wife we wake up every day with the same kind of drive and determination to teach ourselves something new. So we're reading books. We're actually studying Spanish, the Spanish language, just to get better at it. I have, I know very broken Spanish, but just trying to brush up on that as well. And but yeah, man, we're reading books. Right now, I'm reading this book called Why the Rich Get Richer. And it really talks a lot about the real estate market and how to, give yourself passive income and utilizing that as a separate business venture, because that's something that we're very interested in. And honestly, something we're already doing. So now we're trying to figure out a way to improve our financial knowledge, because that's the one thing that I see. There's one thing that I know that I'm not an expert in, and I want to improve my knowledge. I want to improve my knowledge in that right now, while we can in this time period, while we have this downtime, you know what I mean? So, man,
You
kudos to
building
you.
yourself skills.
That's
You
it,
building
man.
yourself up, bro. That's exactly what you're supposed to do, man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And not only just for yourself, but you're doing it for your kids too. You know what I'm saying? Both of
exactly.
y'all are doing stuff with y'all kids. I seen you on IG. Y'all be partying, dancing with the kids. That was a good time, man. I mean, I still follow y'all boys, man. So I make sure I see y'all, making sure y'all doing good. You know what I mean? And if y'all, I reach out once in a while, like we all do in the group chat, man. So that's good that you're doing it. We all need to do that, bro.
Always. Yeah, we do. We do need to do that, man. And you know what else I wanted to ask you about, man? Because the draft is coming up. And, again, going back to the coronavirus, this is going to be the first time that the draft, or maybe at least that I know of, that the draft is going to happen virtually. It's not going to be held in Las Vegas. They ended up having to cancel that, obviously, because of the coronavirus and the pandemic that's going on around the world. And so as I'm speaking to some guys, I got a chance to interview Jonathan Taylor. And, it's just crazy to hear the stories of these young kids now trying to find any and everywhere to get a workout in because the gym's closed. They can't get into, you can't go into large group settings and to get workouts in like we have the opportunity to do, throughout our career and leading up to the draft. And so I want to ask you just kind of about your draft experience, coming from the Big Ten, undrafted free agent, what was that like for you?
I mean, before I get into, my story, it's crazy that you say that, man, with the draft, because this year I was reached out by the NFL asking if I could host, do the draft calling for the Saints this year, which was an honor, you know what I mean? And it will be my first time ever experiencing anything like that. So with this coronavirus basically killing that, it sucks, first off. It really does suck because I would like to see that whole experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to get in my story, I never went into the draft, like the combine. I mean, I did what I did, but I never made it in the draft. So my name got passed up, you know what I mean? So it'd be cool to see, those kids out there in the stands, in the audience, waiting for their name to be called, to see how the lights, how the NFL just sets everything up for these kids to be called on to make it to that next level. And just for the points that you hit on, man, I mean, just leading up, my pro day was at the University of Illinois, and we're all there, working as hard as we can, backing each other up, pushing each other to get to our best abilities, out there to, when these guys come for that day. And just going through that and knowing these kids nowadays can't, do the same thing like you mentioned, like we did back then. I mean, they're gonna have to find ways. This is a way for you to adjust. And then also this is gonna give kids a chance to really see what they're about. If they're willing to do the work when nobody's around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta find a way, because that's just how we all work. I'm sure you did it, you know what I mean? When you were back home and nobody was around, the work effort that you put in, you know what I mean? I've seen work effort that you put in when we were playing, you know what I mean? When practice was over and nobody was around, you still in the gym or you still out there on the field doing stuff. We all were doing that on our own separate times. So that's what these kids got to do now, and just prepare for the best. I mean, because no matter what happens in this world, man, we gotta walk that journey, and we got to adjust. We have to adjust whatever is thrown at us, because we don't know what's gonna happen, man. So I mean, I salute these guys, and I hope they do the best job they can, to get ready for that draft. But I'll give you a funny story real quick about my draft time. And I was in St. Louis with my agent. He brought all his clients out to St. Louis, had a big party. And the draft time, first round went by. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This was the first round, the first day. And during the time when I was with the University of Illinois, my first coach was Ron Turner. And he left my sophomore year, and Ron Zook came in. He left my sophomore year leading up to the junior, started the junior, that's when Ron Zook came in. But Ron Turner moved on to the Bears, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Bears. This is the second round in the draft, and I believe this was 2007. Yeah, 2007, second round. Man, I get a call. I know the Bears was getting ready to have their pick coming up soon. I get a call. I'm in my room at the time because I couldn't bear to be around anybody else. I was in my room watching it. Man, I get a call and I see Ron Turner's name pop up, and I know, I'm like, oh, he with the Bears? Word. You know what I mean? This is it. Like, yes. I'm hyped. I'm jumping around. I'm excited. Man, he called me and tell me good luck.
You
I
thought
was
you was
like,
staying
you
home,
gonna do that
huh?
to me?
You thought you was staying at the crib.
Yeah. Bro, I was geeked. I was excited. Like, yeah, I'm about to go to the Bears. I'm about to play for the crib, hometown. Hey, I just want to say good luck to you. Ron, come on, bro.
That's hilarious, man.
That was dirty.
Bro,
But
go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? He's a good guy. He meant all well, you know what I mean? He was a great coach. And I mean, I just really appreciate that call. But I mean, I was just, it just hurt me like, dang, yeah. I thought this was it.
We all wish we could play for the hometown team, man. Every one of us, deep down inside, there's a little kid that wish we could, you know, play for our hometown, bring a championship there, you know what I mean, ride off into the sunset. But, man, sometimes God has different and bigger plans for your life, man. And that's the one thing that I kind of took away from my draft experience, because everything leading up to the draft, to literally the day of the draft, I was told I was going to Houston. And my agents were on the phone with the coaches. They were on the phone with the GM at the time, Charlie Casserly, and everything they had been telling us was, we selecting you first, you coming to Houston. So I actually started looking for houses already in Houston. So when we get to the night before the draft, I find out on ESPN, oh, sorry, I can't say that. Run that back. Sorry, because we on Fox. Anyways, I find out on TV that Mario Williams is going to be the first pick in the NFL draft. He's going to Houston, and I couldn't believe it, man. Honestly, I really couldn't believe it, because I thought maybe somebody was playing a joke on me, or somebody was playing games. And then when I spoke to my agent at the time, he was like, you know, it's confirmed, it's true. And so right there at that moment, I learned quickly the business side of this sport, right? I learned that you can't trust or take anybody's word unless you see your name on the dotted line in that contract and it says sign here. That's the only thing that matters. You know what I'm saying? And so I learned the business side of football very early. I was hurt by it. I was hurt by it because I felt like, you know, the competitive side of me was, I'm the best available option, period. You know what I mean? And so to go through that the way I did, it really humbled me, because I didn't realize my purpose in New Orleans, right? Like my mind was set on Houston, and my purpose that God had for my life was in New Orleans for a bigger plan, and that was to help people in a city to just get back to being excited about life, right? This wasn't even about football. And you know this because you were there for so many years, that the relationships we built down there in New Orleans were second to none, right? And I mean, to the point to where we were physically rebuilding homes, to the point to where, you know, anytime we go back there now, it's like seeing that old family member, right? It's like seeing that old family member that you miss, you ain't seen in a while, you're catching up, and it don't matter where we go, right? Everywhere we go in New Orleans, we always got love. And so I wanted to ask you kind of about your time down in New Orleans, because I know how big of a role you played in the community down there. But what was your experience like, you know, with the connection of the people down there, obviously post-Katrina? What was your relationship like with the people down there?
I mean, just coming into New Orleans, you know, everybody didn't know who I was, but I had to prove myself. You know what I'm saying? I knew you were going there, or you were there, you know, and the backfield was basically so, you know, solid and sealed up. But I had to make a name for myself some way, somehow. So that was my opportunity, you know what I mean? And I didn't know how the people of New Orleans was going to accept me, you know? So I tried my best. And the one thing I can say is I appreciate New Orleans so much, because they're one of the reasons why I made the team, you know what I mean? The fame. They're one of the reasons why I made the team. Yeah, I was supposed to go in and do what I was supposed to do. That's proven. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go in there and leave a mark, right? And I tried to do my best job of that. And I needed the fans to pull me up. Like I could climb all the way up to the top, but I need you to help me get up there. And that's what the fans did. So they pulled me up because they was like, you know what? We don't want Pittman. We want you. So when I found that out, that's when I saw the love that New Orleans had for me. So I was like, you know what? And I tell the fans a lot. Every time I go down there, I said, look, man, they was like, man, we love you. I said, no, I love you guys because I appreciate you supporting me during my time there, but you guys actually pulled me on the team because you made it hard for the organization to say, hey, we can't pass up on this dude. You know what I mean?
And I remember that time period, man, when you came and Pittman was there. Pittman was, I believe, like a second or third round draft pick. You were an undrafted free agent. And like you said, you had to make a name for yourself, man. And I'll never forget that first year seeing one. I remember when Sean released Pittman and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? They released him? He a third round draft pick. And then seeing the amount of hard work, dedication, and effort that you put in on a daily basis, man, it pushed me and it motivated me to be as great as I could be because on one side, I knew that I had a teammate that was going to push me in the backfield, but on the other flip side, I knew that I had to get my stuff together because if I didn't, you know what I mean, you were playing at a really consistent level every week. And that's the one thing I always take away from when I watched you was just how consistent you were, man. And a lot of people don't understand the dynamic between teammates, right? Because on one end, you are teammates, but on the other end, you're also kind of competing against each other too, right? And so I wanted to ask you, you know, what is it like, you know, what is it in giving fans kind of that in-depth look into, you know, teammates? Like, what is it like, man, to be able to compete against somebody, but also you're pulling for him too because that's your boy, you want to see him do well?
I mean, coming in is a challenge, you know what I mean? It started off with, you know, Pittman, myself and Pittman, you know what I mean? Me and him coming in at the same time, same position. You know, we already knew that you, Deuce, and Steck, y'all was solid because y'all was already there. But this is our time to compete. Now, I never had a problem with Pittman. I still don't to this day. And I always try to help Pittman out. The reason why is because if I help him out to get him to his best ability, that's going to make me get to my best ability. So that's what it was. So when we started playing together, I had to keep coming at you, you know, pushing you because I mean, when I saw you play, I'm like, yo, this is Reggie. You know what I mean? The person I've seen in college destroying everybody, you know what I mean? He is talented. The things that you did on the field, I'm just like, what? Man, this is crazy. Like, this dude is like, he a freak of nature. And I'm like, you know what? But I got to, and I'm like, you know what? I thought to myself, like, look, I got to push myself to be like that. I got to push myself to be like this dude, you know, to be on the same level or try to be better. And the thing is, that's what it was. It was like a friendly competition. It's like, look, if I don't push myself to be best, you always gonna dominate. You be like, man, I ain't got no competition in here. You know what I mean? I'm bored. You might get bored. So you don't want to be bored. They always tell you, don't get lazy, don't get bored. Stay hungry, stay on your grind. So that's what it was. That's the push. And you got to learn how to separate a push, a challenge, competition from friendship, from people, for being human. You know what I mean? They got to be two different things. And we start to come together, you know, in our career together. We it was slowly because we both didn't know each other. We both came from different, you know, parts of the country, man. We didn't know who we were. And then we slowly start seeing that, like, yo, you cool, I'm cool. Let's hang out. And that's how we start kicking it outside of football, you know, start hanging out. And we still have a conversation to this day. So, I mean, that's what it's about, man. Having that balance between competition and being cool outside of that competition too. Because you got to understand for yourself, it's like, look, this person's here just like you are. You know what I mean? They're working as hard as you. So you got to push them just like they got to push you. So you guys got to work together. And that's what it's about. It's not about like, oh man, he get more touches and reps. Man, if he out there killing, that means you're killing because the team is winning. You winning and he's winning, and vice versa.
And everybody don't understand that, man, because again, you know, from the outside looking in as a fan, you think, oh man, they teammates, they good, they buddy. but at the end of the day, you're also trying to provide for your family, right? And at the end of the day, if you're not putting in the production on the football field, well, then they're trying to find ways to replace you, right? And so, you know, I think that speaks to the culture of the team, right? Because I truly believe, man, you know, when you first got to New Orleans, we were a good offensive team. We were always a good offensive team. But to me, the difference in 2009 was our defense caught up to us, right?
Yes.
Because once our defense caught up to us and they were just as good and maybe even a little bit better than the offense, that's where I felt like
how we excelled.
Yeah, we excelled. Do you remember, man, any of those practices that year in like training camp? You know what I mean? OTAs, camp. Do you remember how competitive those practices were?
Yeah, I mean, everybody was fighting. We fighting each other. Because we, you know, okay, this is how it used to be. We was, if you want to put it in these terms, man, we were like the big brother. It's like big brother, little brother. We were the big brother. Offense was the big brother because it's like, look, we're killing y'all in practice. Now all of a sudden, the little brother grew up bigger than you now. How the little brother gonna be bigger than the big brother? And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, now they starting to fight back. You know what I mean? Now they starting to step up to where we at. And it's like, we ain't used to that because we used to dominate them in practice. And I mean, that's not just how it was. And now we see the defense stepping up and they going after the ball, stripping the ball anytime, but they're helping us. You know what I mean? They're like, look, man, this can happen in a game any given time. So you always got to be on your P's and Q's. You know what I mean? You got to be on point. So it's just like, wow, we wasn't ready for that. And how we responded, I mean, it was a lot of fights breaking out. I mean, a lot. The offensive lineman used to toss the DBs out of the glove. Man, that used to be the funniest thing, just seeing the offensive lineman running downfield, grabbing the little DBs and tossing them. I used to laugh. Everybody fighting. They're like, man, you're not going to jump in. I said, look, man, that's energy they wasted. I need all this energy for the rest of practice.
Hey, man, you either going to be one or the other. You either going to hop in that fight and waste all that energy, which is usually what the young guys do, right? And so I want people to also pay attention. Like when you see fights on the football field, you don't see no OGs over there fighting. You see all the young dudes hot and heavy, trying to prove themselves and trying to prove their toughness. But the OGs, they over there chilling on the sideline because they know you're wasting energy right now.
Look at him. Look at this fool. Look at him. You see him? Look at this fool. He gonna be tired. Watch. He gonna have to play the next play. Watch how he be tired.
Hey man, you know what? I appreciated all those practices because I really felt like, you know, one, I learned a lot about myself in that year. I learned a lot about our team, and I learned a lot about the city of New Orleans, right? And New Orleans is one of the toughest places you can ever come from. It's one of the toughest places to grow up in. It's one of the toughest stadiums to play in. You know, we have really, and that's one of the things I'm proud of. I'm proud of how we built the culture, helped build that culture of the city of New Orleans. The stadium now is known as one of the loudest stadiums in football. It wasn't always like that, you know, when we first got there. We had to build that to get there. So that's something that I'm proud of. Go ahead.
I like to say it was, you know, after Katrina, New Orleans was down. You know, the community was down. You know, everybody there was, you know, at their low. It was like, man, what is going on? This is devastating. How are we ever going to come back from this? And I like to think that we, you know, brought them back. You know, all of us individually, our story, our fights, you know, us never stopping and us saying, you know what, we need to give this city something to be proud of, to hold on to, you know, come up from this devastation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, you know, when the series title 9/11, Yankees won the World Series that time. You know what I mean? They brought the city back. And I feel like that's what we did too down in New Orleans. You know, the city watched us, how we continue to fight and not give up. And we gave the city, I feel like we gave the city hope. I like to think that. I'm not sure if that's what it was, but I like to think that we gave the city hope that shows like, hey, you know, even though the history of the New Orleans Saints was not always good, but we can overcome, and we're going to show you how we can overcome, and we're going to be consistent. And that's what we were. You know, we all walked together. You know what I mean? We all helped rebuild New Orleans to what it is now, and, you know, and it's moving in the right direction. And now you see, you know, the talk, New Orleans is starting to be one of the top teams that's always talked about.
Yeah, so,
you see what we did, man.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we definitely did that, man. So let's take a trip down memory lane, man. Let's go back to the Super Bowl, 2009. Um, let's go back to the NFC Championship game. We kick the field goal, we win. We're going to the Super Bowl on the football field. What's going through your head?
Whew. A lot, man. It was, I guess you could say I had a flashback to whenever I first started playing. You know what I mean? I had a flashback of times where people told me, you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough, you're too small, you're not going to make it, you know, to, man, it's going to be hard, all the hard work that I put in, you know what I mean? All the blood that I put, the broken bones that I got, the torn ligaments, muscles that I went through, you know what I mean? Just to get here. I'm here. And now it's like, you know, my heart is racing. I'm nervous. It's like, even though every game I'm nervous, but it's not this intense. This is the highest platform that you can be in on this at this level, you know, this profession. So it's like, man, I got to go out here and play the game like it's another game. Don't worry about the hype. You know what I mean? Even though we had all these cameras, media days, you know, people, it's just so much going on. It's like, what? You're here, man. This is the time. Man, ain't no higher, you know, position to be in, no higher level. This is it. Go out there and do what you got to do. So, I mean, I just tried to stay focused and just think to myself, yo, this is another game. It's not a Super Bowl. This is not it. This is just another game. Go out there and just think like that and play the game like you know how.
I remember you spoke about media days and all the interviews and stuff that we did leading up to the Super Bowl, because obviously everybody, you know, we were on what people were calling like this Cinderella story, right? This Cinderella run. And we didn't have all the respect of everybody going to the Super Bowl, because people thought that we were playing on this magical run, and this was, you know, something that maybe, you know, they were kind of trying to discredit us, that we belong there. And do you remember when Sean put up the Las Vegas spread the night before the game? And he basically said, this is what they think about you. And even though we've made it this far, we still have a lot to prove. That motivated me. And that's one of the things I'll always remember. You know, I don't remember a lot of pregame speeches, but I remember when Sean put that up and showed me that we were still heavily disrespected. I put it on myself mentally to leave everything on the football field. Did you feel that same way?
Oh, definitely, man. I mean, it shows that most people say, like, look, you're the underdog. You're not going to make it. You're not going to win. You've never been here before. You know what I mean? That's how everybody looked at it. It's like, yo, you don't know how to handle this. This is totally different. You've never been here. You've never been on this stage. So that I definitely see what you're talking about. And when people put us down, it just made me more excited. Like, you know what? We're going to prove y'all wrong. You know what I mean? Because anytime I hear negativity about somebody tell me, oh, you can't do this, or you can't do that, just like me building my stuff. Oh, man, you can't build. Thank you for saying that. Because you know why? You about to make me go build something right now. You know what I mean? And that's what it was. And that's how my thought was, okay, thank you, Sean, for showing us to us. Now I'm about to go out here and do what I need to do so we can put our team on the top. And that's how we all felt. You could feel the tension, because when he did that, it's like you take a glimpse around the room and you just see everybody like, what? Really? Okay, bet, let's do this. Let's do this. And you just seen everybody get focused right then and there.
All right. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day, bro.
Right?
Literally all day, because we really got chemistry. We're really friends. And but we do need to close out, you know, start to wrap it up a little bit. But
go ahead.
Before we do, I gotta ask you about this, going back to the Super Bowl, because I don't know if you felt this way the same way I did, so I want to get your opinion on this. When Sean came into the locker room at halftime and said we was going to do an onside kick to start the second half, I felt like he was one of one. He was the only person in that room that wanted to do it, and he was maybe the only person in the room that believed we was actually going to get the ball back when we did the onside kick. So I want to ask you, man, when Sean came in there talking about the onside kick at halftime, what was your emotions? And then when it happened in the game, what was your emotions after that?
Okay, man, when he announced it, my first reaction was like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude tripping for a minute. I'm like, Sean, you tripping, bro? It's halftime. Like, just to go take a break. Did you?
And we wasn't getting blown out either, bro. We was still. It was only one score game.
Yeah, we wasn't exactly. We wasn't down by a lot. I'm just like, Sean, go. Okay, it's a 45-minute rest period. This is a long break. Go sleep. Yeah. Go sleep real quick, because I think you need to. I need you to rethink that. Recharge your batteries real quick. But honestly, another side of me also said, yo, ain't nobody gonna expect this though. Ain't nobody gonna know this is coming. I said, you know what? I got a good feeling we gonna get this ball back. You know what I mean? That was another, because I had to think about it. It's like an onside kick coming out. I don't think I ever heard of this in NFL history of anybody doing this. It might just work. So I'm like, you know what? It is gonna work. Forget that. I'm with you, Sean. Let's do it. And then I'm just like, I'm praying on the sideline, like, man, this better work.
Bruh, I was praying. Oh my God.
After seeing that we got the ball back, I was like, yo, we won.
I was like, praying to God that we did not screw that up, because I was like, man, listen, there's only a few times in my life where I was like, there's actually like a play that I can look back on and like, dang, I might have did that differently. The only time I thought I would do something differently was in the national championship game where I pitched the ball, where I lateraled to the guy. But still, even then, like I still wasn't as bothered about that, because I know if it worked, it would have been one of the greatest plays ever. But in the Super Bowl, though, I'm like, come on, Sean, like, hey, like, we should probably not do this right now. There's a lot of different options. It's still a one-score game. It's about to turn into a two-score game if we don't get this kick, because Peyton Manning is not playing, and they got a ton of weapons on that side, man. So I was nervous, but I'll tell you what, though, when we kicked it and I saw the dog pile, that's when I knew we got it. Because even though we hadn't, the ref hadn't signaled we recovered it yet, I just knew the fight, the dedication, the determination, everything that was built up inside of us, and also our purpose and why we were there on that football field. I just knew we was gonna come out on top with that football, man. And in the rest is history. We end up winning the game.
And also just to know, like, we was gonna win it, like it was our destiny, because you heard this. Almost the whole city of New Orleans, Saints fan, all came down to Miami, bro.
All
of them. So basically, we was playing a home field advantage. We took over that stadium. It was New Orleans all around Miami, man. So just having, you could just see the fans, man. Just having those fans behind us, traveling with us like that, you just knew it was destiny. It was our time. And
yeah, man, it was our time, man. So I appreciate you, Pierre, man, for stopping
definitely,
through.
Bro.
I do believe we got a fan question. Nicole wants to know, what was the toughest defense you ever faced, and why was it so tough? So let me start this off, man. I'll kick it off. I think the toughest defense that I faced when we were with the Saints was the Baltimore Ravens. And Pierre, I'm not sure, I believe you were on the team. When Baltimore came to New Orleans, they beat the dog breaks off us, bro. Beat the living breaks off us, right? And so I was talking about this yesterday with Michael Vick, because there are times, because I mentioned to you the reopening of the Superdome game was on TV. So I did an IG live with Mike Vick. We were talking about some stories, and his response was just that, man, it was just your guys' night. I knew that we had no shot from like after the first quarter, because just the energy and effort, and just you guys were playing with something a little bit different, which I believe was purpose, right? We had a different purpose that night. I believe, and he said that, sometimes you have those games where, again, there's nothing you could do. I look back at that game against Baltimore, and when they came to New Orleans, and there was nothing we could do. It didn't matter what we tried. I remember Sean called a halfback pass that I threw up in the air. That I threw up in the air.
The guy
to Colston, and like they intercepted it. And I never forget, this is where I knew we had no shot. It wasn't even something that happened in the game. They just scored a touchdown, and the DJ was playing Mystical, Here I Go. And I looked on the other sideline, their whole defense was lined up, rocking side to side, to the beat, to the song while we was kicking the ball off. I was like, hey man, we don't got it today. They gonna beat us. Ain't nothing we can do. What was your toughest defense that you felt like we faced?
I would have to agree with you, man. Baltimore. It was the time, I think we were there.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I seen this type of defense. And I mean, we watched film on them, leading up to the game. But you remember when they was moving around?
Yeah.
Everybody kept moving around. I'm just looking like, oh my God, what is cool? I'm like, who you miking? Who's down? I was confused. I'm like, oh my God, I just got to stay in. But bro, I tell you, after that game, my body was so sore. I could barely walk the next day after all them hits, man. After all them hits and taking on blocks, I would say that like you said, Baltimore defense was probably one of the toughest defenses I ever faced, man. I can't remember who was the D coordinator during that time, but his strategy was unbelievable, man.
It didn't matter because they had
it was hard to read it. It was hard to read it. I mean, you can say the truth too, man. It was hard to read that defense when they moving around like that. You don't know who. You know what I mean? You got to find the down guy. And let's say they playing a 3-4 defense, man, and they definitely moving in. You don't know who's down, which linebacker is down. You don't know who to call. Then you got the safety coming down too. It's like, and these dudes moving around, and just like you said, the music, they jump, they hype, and it's like, oh, dang, we got to go through this.
So what you're kind of explaining, because I want the casual fan to understand, what you're explaining is that before the ball is hiked, there is what we call pre-snap read, right? And so that's when the ID checks happen from a quarterback. You see linemen kind of pointing around at who they might have. You see running backs doing the same thing. And so what makes it difficult is when you have those defensive players are just walking around, moving around so that you can't ID them and you don't know where they're coming from. And really it's almost like a swarm of bees, right? You got bees coming from everywhere and you just don't know who's blitzing and who's dropping. And so I do agree with you, man. Anytime I play defenses like that, usually like Baltimore or Pittsburgh, it was just tough, man, because they got athletes and they know where they're blitzing from and we don't.
We don't. Stay in. That was what I said. Stay in.
Just stay in. Just stay in.
Knowing you're supposed to get out. If you don't got nobody to block, get out late, but stay in. Don't go
nowhere.
In,
man. You always safe if you stay in and block and protect the quarterback, man. But I want to get to another question. We got one more fan question coming up. This one is from Will Hagel. I promise. I apologize if I said that one wrong as well. But Will wants to know what's the best story about Pierre off the field.
Oh man, come on.
I don't know if I can tell the stories, man.
Will, you get too personal, bro. Will is getting too personal.
all our funniest stories, all things that will always live just between us, between the boys. But I will say this, man. Every time we hung out, Pierre, off the field, we always had a great time. We always vibe. We always kicked it. You still show up. You come to my charity events every year, man, and I appreciate that, man. And that I think that goes back to just the personal relationship that we built, and also that the competitive fire and spirit that we built together on the football field, man. So I always appreciated that. But some of my favorite stories are just watching you on the field, as consistent as you were, of a player on and off the field, man, because you didn't waver, you didn't change. Like, this person you were off the field was the person you were on the field, man. So I always appreciated that. Again, I would love to give some personal stories, man, but all that stuff is personal for a reason.
Exactly.
But that's it, man. I appreciate you kicking it with us.
Definitely, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
I appreciate the consistency that you always gave, and I'm gonna try to be like you, man. I'm gonna try to go build something now.
Hey, man, just learn a new language, man. I'm trying to learn French right now.
Yeah, that's a hard language, man. That's hard.
It is. It's tough. I'm still in patience.
Yeah. All right, bro. I appreciate you, man. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy, man, and we'll catch up again soon.
You too, man. Tell the family I say hello, man. Be safe out there.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.